Sonic Underground Episode 8 Underground Masquerade. Why do they insist on having narration at the start trying to spoil the plot for us? That's pointless. Dingo complains about the fact that they can't keep the taxpayer money they collect for themselves, and then Sleet says that maybe he can make someone else take the blame while they take the cash. We see some poor kid yell at someone for having no wallet money, which you'd think would make that someone go after him and call the police on him. And then he climbs a pole to a roof and jumps over to another roof and uses a rope tied around his chest to slide down and steal the hood ornament of a bounty hunter's vehicle as he runs away on a roof. He's cool, like all the jumping from roof stuff. He runs into the hero's vehicle and says that bad guys are after him. Sonic is a jerk, asking why they should care.
Any particular reason we should care?
Some hero. He's only happy to help him because he learns that it's Sleet who's after him. And Sleet is their enemy. Manic takes the wheel and Sonic runs out of the vehicle and taunts Sleet. He flies around and the bounty hunter rides his bike up a slope and fails and falls. Then we see Sonia complaining about the poor criminals who she calls barbaric ruffians. A poor person juggles while stealing from the rich, being kinda clever by distracting them, and Sonic is a killjoy by giving the rich back what they lost. When I don't think they would notice that much that they lost. I mean, if it's just carrying around money. They probably have a lot in the bank anyways. I get why he's doing this though. At least he's showing he's a good person after he was a dick earlier. Sleet has a really unthreatening voice. I don't know why they approved that. It's tonally dissonant.
How can we twist this situation to our advantage?
He transforms Dingo into a different person and puts something in his ear so that he'll hear every word spoken to him by Sleet, and he can say what Sleet is telling him to say, because he doesn't have faith in Dingo's intelligence to know what to say. The poor guy says that he can't give someone stuff back because he doesn't know who it was taken from. And Manic, of all people, tells him that stealing's wrong, with the poor kid having a good point that they have no other choice in their situation. And for some reason, Sonia complains about harmonica music. Dingo briefly hits a poor kid and totally gets away with it without him calling him out on it for some reason. And he says everything that he's told to say through the earpiece. Manic then shows off his stealing ability to an impressed crowd, and it turns out Dingo is going to infiltrate the poor criminals group. Then they dodge lasers from Sleet and his SWAT bots. Wait, there are robots called SWAT bots in this show too? Those aren't SWAT bots. That's a cheap SAT-AM reference. The redhead poor kid whispers a plan to Sonic, as he's the one coming up with the plan for once. And everyone in the poor group gets sucked into a blue portal. Sonic shoots a laser from his guitar to create a bunch of brick rubble, and them getting away was the whole point of Sleet. Sonic is thanked for the Sonic Whirlwind Express. Magical medallion, I guess. I wish it was clearly established every single thing that the medallions could do, because it seemed to be a bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card because they could do literally anything. Speaking of which, Manic summons his drum, and the poor plan to play music too. How does... Well, I guess they stole the instruments, like the accordion and the violin. Either they stole them, or their family used to be wealthy, but aren't anymore. Maybe they were middle class, but they couldn't pay the anti-robotization tax, so they all had to go into hiding and become poor. But that's not really explained. It just looks like there's rich people, and there's poor people, and nobody else. Someone says that he has to give the tax money to Robotnik or he'll go to jail. This is mature writing, villains that are forced to work for Robotnik and aren't super happy about it. That's better writing than when they have Mobians be villains for Robotnik in Fleetway or AOSTH, and they're crazy evil, like the pig babysitter of Tails. The heroes hide when Sleet shows up, and Sleet says that it's only because he's an outstanding citizen that he's allowed his yearly ball by Robotnik. Then we see Dingo suggesting stealing the taxpayer money. He says that he can wait until Sleet takes possession of the taxpayer money, and tries to gouge Manic, saying that he wants to see if Manic can get to the treasure room past the security system and bring back 1 coin as a test. Dingo is just saying what Sleet is telling him to though. He's not actually planning against Sleet. So the bounty hunters have a plan independent of Robotnik that will inconvenience him. It's brilliant. Then the heroes play music for people, fortunately disguised with masks to justify everyone not being that suspicious of them. And I guess Sonic's not the only blue hedgehog in the world, or maybe you have to see Sonic's face to be able to tell that it's not just blue hair, but blue quills sticking out of him. But you'd think people would get a little suspicious since they see a person with blue hair, a person with green hair, and a person with pink hair, who all play the instruments that the heroes are known for playing. Maybe people know that it's them and are just covering for them and don't actually tell Robotnik that it's them. Manic really can't sing. He doesn't have the right voice for it. I love that when the songs play, they have the screen stretched or thinner so I know in the timeline to skip past them. I know when they begin and end. While the song is playing, Manic is doing his own thing, stealing. So I had to see at least a little of the song to know that he was progressing the plot. I hate when that happens. It should be all padding. So you can skip it and it's fine. Whatever, it's only a few seconds you have to see. Then Sleet shows up demanding his money and demands the police spot to search Manic for a coin. I mean, a robot being a policeman, he'd certainly be more competent. He wouldn't be able to get killed on the job or injured. He gets Manic handcuffed, and Sonic tells Manic that he let them down, as there's consequences to a mistake Manic made, which is good writing. And it's like his flaw of kleptomania actually backfiring on the heroes, rather than being a pointless waste of a few seconds. Sleet says that he has to pay all the tax money, and he's naturally annoyed, so he tells the police bot to take all the heroes to jail, being a jerk, but I can understand, at least.
That will ruin me!
Sonia plays music to create pink smoke for an escape, and Sonic in the vehicle says that Manic was always saying that he chose to do what he wanted. But Sonia's right! He was spending time with criminals, and he let them pressure him into stealing more. And Sonic dismisses the entire idea and believes that it was just a dare he did. The redhead poor kid uses a camera to videotape Sleet bragging about his plan working. It's sure is convenient that Sleet happened to brag about the plan that he already knows has succeeded, and so there's not really much of a reason for him to talk about it at all anymore. The redhead runs away, and someone sends stuff to the bad guy to help him escape. How did that person know the redhead would be there and need help? Sonic runs away with the redhead, and tells Manic that he's busting him out of jail, and uses a laser shot from his guitar to do so. Sonia smiles when she says that the police will be after them in a minute. That's kind of a slightly common artist's mistake. Sonic lures the robots to run past him to Sleet while he hides, and then the robots are shown a projector video of Sleet bragging. What kind of a camera is a projector like that? I guess the bounty hunters will magically avoid robotization ruining their design, and Sleet will magically avoid being fired because it's a stupid status quo thing. And the redhead proudly insists that he'll never be a criminal again, yeah right. We don't even see him get a job. This is condescending. We get it! The show is telling us not to steal. They're apologizing for a hero main character being a thief. You don't have to have an entire episode about this. And Manic lies that he's also gonna walk the straight and narrow, and I'm pretty sure he'll keep stealing. And him lecturing people about stealing is extremely out of character. It doesn't suit him at all since he's kind of the lovable rogue, token evil teammate of the group, despite being friendly. This episode was about two things. On the villain's side, for once there's a villain's plot against Robotnik by villains because the bounty hunters come up with a plan to frame Sonic for stealing taxpayer money while Sleet can escape with the money, using Dingo's shapeshifting to do so. Since he shapeshifts Dingo with a device he has, I don't see why they can't replace Sleet as actual consequences for him betraying Robotnik. And then we get a replacement for him that doesn't have a pathetically unthreatening voice. It doesn't have to be Dingo specifically who's shapeshifted. We could have other bounty hunters. I thought we would have different bounty hunters. I was very surprised that we had regular, recurring characters in the form of Sleet and Dingo instead of different bounty hunters every time. But no, status quo. I guess status quo was absolutely necessary to have Sonic not take down Robotnik really quickly, because they remember the factories that he destroyed that produce robots. But if they have to rely on the status quo, Archie Sonic doesn't do that. It had continuity, and Robotnik still wasn't taken down super quickly. Anyway, Sleet had an impressive plan that only got screwed up because he was caught bragging on camera, because he arbitrarily was written to brag and recount his entire plan so he'd fail. It's at least more satisfying for him to get caught than to actually get away with doing the plan by lying that he recovered the stolen money. But if he didn't get caught, I wouldn't be so annoyed that chances are he won't be roboticized or dead by the next episode. Sleet and Dingo are not strong enough, deep characters that are totally charming. They're not good enough characters that I could understand not replacing them. The point is, I like the shape-shifting device, so you can just shape-shift bounty hunters that aren't them. But I guess it is better to have recurring villains. It just creates some more patronizing negative continuity that's really out of place for a show about freedom fighting against a tyrant turning people into robot slaves. And that's totally status quo episodic for some reason. Like, don't have them get into deep trouble and then, oh, it's fine. At least have Robotnik get hit with a forgetting ray. Anyways, on the hero's side, the episode is about Manic spending time with the poor people, the thieves that he grew up around. The problem is that Manic is written to lecture them about stealing being wrong, when that's horribly out of character for him. It just comes off as the executives and writers telling us about that, using him as a mouthpiece. It makes him a giant hypocrite to say that stealing is wrong, since he does it all the time and will probably never stop his whole gimmick. If they wanted an episode about stealing being wrong, they should have had the heroes get something valuable stolen from them, so we'd see their point of view. Instead, we're shown the poor thieves, and they say that they have to steal to survive, and there's absolutely no real alternative shown. Like, we don't see poor people working without stealing. Like, we see one juggling to impress people, but how much money is that really going to make for them? That's just one person. And since everyone who's not rich is roboticized in Robotropolis, as was stated in the intro, chances are they're right. They have no choice but to be fugitives because they have to run from the police who are trying to roboticize them. So how do they expect to get steady, legitimate jobs when there's always a warrant out for their arrest? They can't. They have to steal, and they never explain that to the heroes. Because if they're working for a boss, wouldn't the boss be interrogated about where their employees live because they'd have that information? Would the boss cover for their employees and then he get roboticized? They would have to work for themselves, like the juggler. And how many jobs like that are there? It's not really about stereotyping all of the poor as criminals, because in this city, they might have literally no choice because they can't pay the anti-robotization tax. They have to be on the run as homeless, hiding fugitives, and there's not a lot they can do to earn an honest living that way. So in a city so radically different from a realistic one, where they literally have to steal to stay alive and not be a robot, it's annoying that they're the victims of an anti-stealing message that isn't fair to them in their situation. Just having the heroes get stolen from would work a lot better for that kind of message. Show what it's like from the victim's perspective, because simply lecturing about the message alone doesn't get the message across. It is a good thing that Manic was shown to make a mistake by realistically falling to peer pressure and wanting to prove he's a good thief by stealing a coin, which gets him in jail because it was a setup. It's always good writing to have the heroes capable of making mistakes and they have consequences, because Sonic says he let him down with his kleptomania for once. Reality is ensuing there, and he gets put in jail, though you can overdo it with the making mistakes. And I really like that the plot wasn't about futilely looking for Sonic's mother again. I totally get why the bounty hunters would carry out that plan. They work hard to get the money, and then they have to give it all away to an evil tyrant who's forcing them to work for him. They're not that much better than him. There's no proof that if they were in his position, they would stop the roboticizing. But they still earned the money more than he did. He didn't personally go up to people and collect the taxpayer money. You'd think if he loves to be evil and do evil things, you'd think he would gladly personally do that because that's an evil deed he can do. And Sleet wasn't being foolish and overly gutsy because he had every reason to believe he'd get away with it, since the heroes already are known for stealing and inconveniencing Robotnik, and them stealing the taxpayer money from Robotnik would have sounded like something that teenage rebels would do on the surface because they take the money and give it back to the rich, without thinking of the fact that it would just give Robotnik an excuse to roboticize everyone if they can't pay the same amount again. So the plan would be pointless, but at least they would have tried to undermine Robotnik. And they would have learned the reality ensues. So far they've done literally nothing to him, and yet he still thinks they're enough of a threat to constantly send bounty hunters against them, just because of one prophecy he heard.